And just when you guys thought that there was going to be more reasonable prices for some of these Surging Spark singles, the prices have flipped and they are going insane. So we're going to talk about the price on some of these Surging Spark singles. I know we've been talking about it a lot, but I do think it is very relevant to talk about still because there's a lot going on in the market right now. We're going to talk about the booster box prices, Surging Sparks. We're going to talk about what I know from my distributors. And then we're also going to be talking about some other singles and maybe some places where I would be putting my money right now instead of putting it into something that I personally believe is definitely overinflated. All right, so first things first to keep in mind here, this is very important. Starting on the 29th of November, we did have a sale on TCG Player for 10% store credit back into your account for everything that you have purchased in the shop. And this goes all the way through December 2nd. So now we are actually going to revisit this again, maybe on December 3rd to see if the prices have really moved a lot during the rest of the sale. But I did want to touch base on it so we have something for a reference to come back to when it comes to the sale itself. And I think that that's driving a lot of these prices right now because what sellers are doing, they're marking up the prices 15 to 20% and getting sales because people are getting that 10% off, but they're still not getting as good of a deal as they were already getting if they had just bought the card before the sale had started. So I think that's happening a lot in this case. So let's go ahead, take a look at the booster box first, and then we'll take a look at the singles. Now, from distro level, we still have nothing at Southern Hobby, nothing, no type of item at all at Southern Hobby. We have booster boxes available right now, currently, from PhD, but they are charging us and all local game stores $160 a box. Yes, they are charging us MSRP, which means in turn for most local game stores to make any money and not lose money on these, they're having to charge over $200 once they pay their seller fees if they're selling on TCG Player, which is roughly 14%. You figure that in with taxes and then any other fees associated with this. If an employee is the one doing this for you and fulfilling this for you, you're paying for them as well as the rest of your overhead. So a lot of that goes into this, and I realistically think right now this $210 price point that we're seeing on these boxes, I just feel like the only people that can realistically make any money on this or margin are like your TikTok and your whatnot sellers that mark up the packs like super high. Like I've seen people charging like $8 and $9 on some TikTok shops and also some whatnot streams, because I've just been going and kind of lurking in some of those streams and just seeing prices and what they're doing. And realistically, I think those are the only people buying at this price. Honestly, those are probably the only people buying at 180 and higher. Because if you're buying at 180, you're really just buying it to sit on it forever, because you're going to expect a reprint at some point or some kind of restock from Pokemon. They see this is going on. They've come out in the past and said, hey, we don't like when people say they can't get a specific product. So they do something in some form or fashion to make it more accessible. So I think it's an absolutely terrible time to invest in this. Do I think if you're buying it and just like putting it away, do I think it'll do amazing long term? Yes. Do I think it's going to be cheaper available sometime in the near future? Yes. There's a lot of possibilities that go into this. So I know a lot of people are FOMOing into this, but I think that this is not a terrible price if you plan on holding it for a long time. But if you're worried about the short term, I don't think that this is a fantastic price in the short term, because I think that Pokemon eventually is going to be able to concentrate on reprinting some of these sets that they really just need to kind of get back out there, restocking them, need to get back out there. They are concentrating on Prismatic Evolution, the set for next year. They're concentrating on 151 Blooming Waters, which they have to probably print a ton of 151 booster product to be able to fill those premium collections, to fill pre-orders. So there's going to be a lot of those. Because they did solicit us for pre-orders, going to big box stores, going to GameStop. They're going everywhere, guys. There's going to be a lot of that available. But like I said, the sale, I think, plays a little bit of a role when it comes to all of the singles in the set right now, because the bump up on a lot of these cards, guys, is like 25% plus, which is a lot. That is a lot in 3 days, okay? We're going to look at sales data that goes back 3 days. So today is the 30th, so November 30th. Now, the sale started on the 29th, so only a day so far of this sale. But if we go back 3 days, we're going to look at the price that it was before the sale, okay? So these were selling. There was one that sold here for $495, but I saw some copies, guys, in this low 400 range. There was a couple that sold at $395. Even on eBay, there were some sales that were in that range. Very little of the sales, because a lot of people didn't want to go down super low on price. But it was dropping the market price overall. You see a couple sales in here for $380, so below $400. But now if you look at today, you guys are seeing one sale at $562. I think this is an outlier. I wouldn't go off of this. But if you look at the rest of the data here, you're still seeing between $480 and $500. That's a 25% to 30% jump in 3 days. That's a lot on a card that now only has 41 listings. So as long as we see this number here, and we don't see this number go up too much, I think if we get to like 80 listings, you're going to start to see the price go down. But I think if this stays between like 40 and 50 listings, or even gets smaller and smaller, you're going to see this card inch its way back to 600 again. And it's just going to take a really big catalyst to make it spring way, way down again, or another like announcement or some kind of news to make it go crazy back up. I don't think we're going to see like the crazy spike that we saw. I do think from this point forward, you're just going to see kind of a gradual uptick on a lot of these cards if we don't see a reprint. But I personally don't think I would be investing in specific ones right now. There's really only one or two that I personally would be picking up at the prices they're at. Let's talk about Latias EX. Now, this is another one that's going crazy right now. If you guys look a few days ago, you guys were able to get this for around $200 on the 27th, and we're going to scroll down here. So you guys see like low 200s, 210. There were some copies being sold here though, which is very interesting in this high 200 range. Look at how wide the range is here. 275 all the way down to 209. So just a giant range on this card. And then now that there's less listings, guys, the average selling price is 260 and above, which is insane. This is another 30% plus. It's hard to see on the 1 month chart here because the prices are so like in between in a short period of time. So you can't really scale this data that well on this chart. So that's why I'm just talking about the numbers from the sales data. So even if you were saying 220 on the high end, so 10% of that is $22. And we're seeing like a 40 to 60% jump up. So you're looking between 20 and 35% jump in just a few days. Again, I think the sale has something to do with this, but when the sale is over, that doesn't miraculously mean the prices are going to drop back down. So I do think that this is going to hold for a little while until we get some kind of drastic catalyst. There's got to be a catalyst for it to go in one direction or the other. Either something comes out where people are like, okay, I want to make my profits and take all my profits to make people panic and then race to the bottom, or someone's going to come out with some kind of data or some kind of news that's going to make it go crazy, right? It's always one or the other typically. But I think Pikachu, you're going to see more of a gradual upwards. With Latias, I have no idea because the range is just crazy on it. Now, the one that has gone ridiculous. Now, I picked up a couple of these for $80 a few days ago because I wanted one for the master set. And then I just love the artwork on the card and I just felt like it was very undervalued. And right now, if we go back 3 days ago to the 27th, we had sales in the 80 range. You had some really low sales too. So you had some in the 80 range. You had a couple that sold for under. Now, I don't know if this is Japanese or not. Typically, sometimes if there's a picture, it's one of two things. It's either Japanese or they're trying to show the centering. Either it's good or bad, maybe for someone that wants that information so they don't have any issues with returns. That usually happens on higher end stuff, so people don't have to deal with like any kind of discrepancies with newer buyers and don't understand that a card that is off-centered is still considered near mint. So a lot of stores do that to kind of cover their butt kind of deal. But if you guys look up here now, it is selling for $150. $150. There was one that sold here for $78. Again, don't know if that's Japanese or just like an outlier. Even LP selling for $130, $155, $150, $140. So this card almost doubled. It got close to doubling in 3 days from where the average selling price was. That is a lot. That is a lot in 3 days, guys. These cards are starting to get fewer and fewer listings. There's only 18 listings of this card. If we don't see more listings of this, this is going to start going nuts like the Latias. And this is also an art piece that pairs with the Feebas card as well. So I think the art pieces, from what we have kind of seen from other sets recently, I think that they're just like desired because people love the artwork on them. So that is a driving factor. I think Milotic is also just a popular Pokemon in general, not like super top tier popular, but definitely more popular than a lot of Pokemon in the Pokemon TCG. So definitely keep your eyes on the Milotic. And now Lycia's appeal right now is still super cheap, but we've seen this after we had kind of that fall of when Triplet Beat came out in Japan and the Dendra was like $1,000 at pre-order, and then Japan started reprinting to crazy demand. We saw the fall of the waifu cards for Modern, right? Like none of the waifu cards, I think Carmen was the only one, Perrin maybe a little bit, but still a lot of these cards are not holding that crazy $150 pre-order price like they were back when Iono came out for Paldea Evolved. It's just not happening anymore. They're not seeing a ton of play. So if they don't see a ton of play, they're probably not going to get a crazy high price point right now. Obviously, Lycia's appeal doesn't see hardly any play. And then Jasmine's Gaze, still $40 for these two illustration rares, which you guys can consider waifu cards if you want to, if you think about them that way. So I do think that these are reasonably priced right now compared to the rest of the market. But even the gold Pikachu is rebounding again. These drop back below 100 a few days ago, and then now they're selling for over 120, around 120 again. So if you go back a few days, you guys are going to see that these were very reasonable in terms of what the selling price was. So these were up to $130 for a little while. They dropped all the way back down to 100, some in the 90s, and then now we're right back up again to the $120 mark on the listings for this card in near mint. So just crazy what's going on with Surging Sparks right now. I personally, at this point, since we've seen the rebound, I'm not buying singles. I'm buying ancillary products if I can find them. For my personal collection, if I want to open anything for myself, Elite Trainer boxes, sleeve boosters, 3-pack blisters, if you guys see them at Target, Walmart, GameStop, I personally am just like buying them for a fun cost. I am not investing in overpriced singles right now from the set. I do just feel like a lot of stuff is overpriced. The Alolan Executor was actually, you could have picked these up last week, I think for like 36. I think I saw them at Charlie's Collectibles Show as one of the booths had it. That was the cheapest price, and it was a near mint copy. It wasn't an LP copy, but even if you go back in data on this, you guys are still looking, you know, in the 40 range, and it's bumped back up now close to 60 again. All right, so now let's take a look at 151 as well. Now, this is another set that I still just feel like there's only a couple cards that I personally would be investing in, and one of them is actually the Zapdos. The Zapdos right now has gone down in price a little bit recently, into the 40s, into the low 40s, and I think this card is a fantastic artwork. I think this is a great price to pick this up, but overall, I think that it is not a good idea right now to be picking up anything from 151 other than maybe if you guys can find ETBs or any of the first form sealed products out there, because they're not reprinting those products. They are reprinting packs, I believe, for the Blooming Waters kits. Now there's no like identifying factor that says it's being reprinted for Blooming Waters or if they're being broken down. But personally, if they were just restocking it, they would have done it for this holiday season. I'm pretty sure that this is something that they've had to reprint a lot of packs and a lot of cards for to fill that product. So I don't think this is just product that's sitting around, but at the same time, I think that they are not going to refill these other ancillary products because then they'd have to make the materials for these products too. So I do think we're only going to see the Blooming Waters kits, no other products, but I do believe that you are going to see a better time to invest in the 151 singles market. I would wait for that Blooming Waters release. Now, we don't know if the prices are going to go higher by then, but I do think a lot of people are smart enough to know that once that product comes out, there's going to be more of it on the market, and there's just going to be a better time to invest. Charizard is still at $200. It went back to $200 after taking a little bit of a hit not too long ago, but it is back selling at $200 again, $190 to $200 based on what kind of condition you're looking at for the Charizard. So personally, like I said, if I was going to buy anything from the set right now, it'd probably only be Zapdos, maybe Alakazam. I think the Alakazam artwork is stunning too. I think this is a really fantastic artwork, but selling above $50, I just don't think that this will hold with that reprint imminent, like with that reprint or restock incoming with the Blooming Waters boxes. Now, what I am taking for the channel and putting in stock for the channel, I've been picking up booster boxes of Temporal Forces when I can get them from distributors, or anybody that's doing sales for the weekend. We've been picking these up still around the $100 to $120 mark, depending on who's running sales. I think that Temporal Forces, I think that Paradox Rift is also a fantastic set if you guys can find some product for right now. I think these are fantastic. I think that a lot of cards in this set are very undervalued, and I've talked about this a lot. Altaria being only $30 and Iron Valiant only being $25. Now, the Iron Valiant might not see any growth because there's a new one coming out in Prismatic Evolution, but who knows? I don't know what to expect with that. Garchomp being under $20. Just so many good special illustration rares and illustration rares, guys, that are super cheap in this set. And then finally, in Obsidian Flames, I talked about this card constantly. You were able to get this card for $35 a month ago. 35 bucks. One of the most beautiful illustration rares. I love this better than a lot of the other Charizards that are out there right now. Now, it's in a set where it is a little bit easier to pull, yes, but it just had so much room to grow. And let's go ahead and take a look at the sales data because I'm curious like what these are selling for now. So we have a couple in here selling for 60. Near mint copies are selling for 60, 60, 60, 60, 60. So almost double where it was a month ago. So if you guys were able to pick these up, you would have doubled your investment on these. So I do tend to look at some singles that I feel are beautiful cards that I think are popular Pokemon, they're beautiful, and they're way below the average price of some of these other big ticket items. So personally, that's the kind of stuff I'd be looking for. And then also, if you can find any Paldean Fate stuff at retail or slightly below, I think this is another set that is just ready and primed to go crazy with the Bubble Mew going over $250 now. Charizard making another run back up. I do think that the ETBs, the 6-pack bundles, the 3-pack sticker collections, any product from this, I think it'll do very, very well because I think the set as a whole was perceived pretty well. A lot of good baby shinies. The special illustration rares look great. I think there's a lot of undervalued special illustration rares in this set, but I do think it's kind of overshadowed by a lot of the other big ticket items that are so hyped right now, like Surging Sparks and the upcoming Prismatic. All right, so that's going to do it for me, guys. Hopefully you guys got some good information today. If I get any more information from my distro at the start of the week next week, I will be the first person to let you know, I promise, on anything Surging Sparks related. But again, I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend, and I'll see you guys on the next video or the next live.